Yes.
The Opinionated Idiot. The Opinionated Idiot live show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Opinionated Idiot live show. We are live here on May 28th, 2023. I want to welcome everybody into the chat. Welcome all my mods. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope that everybody is having a fantastic weekend so far. So here we are in part 2 of our series of What Do the Experts Have to Say about the Bryan Kohberger case. Now, listen, we've heard, like I was saying on my last video in part 1, we've heard about all of the sleuths and the inside investigators and the YouTube channels and Twitter. We've heard all their opinions, all their information, but let's get down to the so-called experts. So I'm going to continue the series tonight in part 2. And I have a couple of videos that we're going to go through here. I have a few that I haven't even had time to watch yet. So this will be my first time going through them and getting those natural reactions. First, before we kick off the show, I wanted to say to one of my mods, Victorine, she's in a pretty crazy situation right now in her Providence. I believe she lives up in Canada, and there's a wildfire going on that's pretty dangerous in her area. So we want to wish her well wishes, and please stay safe. And I hope that everything works out in and around your area. The most important thing is that you are safe. Also, I want to send a get well to Laura, one of my co-host, when she comes on to do my Kohberger shows with me. I hope that she's well. I hope she's doing well. I think she said that she's feeling a little bit better, but still in pretty rough shape there. So Laura, get better. We need you back here. We'd love to have you back here. Victorine's in the chat. I hope everything's going well. And let's just wish her some well wishes, and let's give Laura some well wishes too. All right, let's do this. Let's hear what the experts have to say. This first video here is a criminologist, and she talks about the DNA. This is with News Nation. Let's get to this one quickly and then move on to the next.
Criminologist and Professor Dr. Debbie Goodman joins us live. Dr. Goodman, thank you so much for your time. You really know this case, the ins and outs of it. So let's start with what we know about the evidence against Bryan Kohberger. The first is this small piece of DNA evidence. How surefire is this, if it is in fact surefire?
Yes, well, good afternoon, Nicole, and always a pleasure to join you for the conversation. I'll use your term and I'll say, indeed, this is surefire evidence. We have in our field something very, very important when it comes to murder cases such as this. It's genetic genealogy. So what that means is each of us has our own compilation of saliva, fluid, blood, print. And the fact that we have this knife sheath, which is that button type of closure to the knife itself, we are now able to take that, and our investigators have done a tremendous job here, local, state, and federal, whereby they have aligned the composition of what's on that knife sheath with trash that had been discarded in the family home of the Kohbergers, and there is alignment. So that, I believe, as a criminologist, is going to be a central feature in this case.
So, Doctor, we also know that there's cell phone records and allegedly video camera of Kohberger's car near the scene during the time of the murders and near the scene multiple times. But what is the defense going to try to pick apart with that?
Right. I think it's going to be, Nicole, very difficult for this defense
Smash,
to
smash,
deflect away from it. And if anything, the prosecution will really utilize those elements in what we like to consider the whole circle of the crime itself, going from A to Z. And it will still be very significant to place him within close proximity. That's a central component also. What might the defense be? Well, could he have been visiting somebody? Or, it's really going to be very weak. And I think it bodes well for the prosecution because, again, it creates this full circle, A to Z, of what we have, and the proximity, the location, the data analytics, I think is still very important here.
Dr. Goodman, there's a lot still missing, a lot that we don't know because of this gag order. What's missing from this case for the prosecution? I mean, obviously, we don't know about a murder weapon. We don't know anything about a motive here.
Right. Well, those are great issues to consider and discuss. So, in addressing the murder weapon itself, we really don't need it. Would it be nice to have? Would it be closer, let's say, to creating the slam dunk? Yes, but I don't think it's pivotal. In terms of a theory, I, as a criminologist, have two theories. One of which is an acronym that I created. It's an acronym JAR: jealousy, anger, revenge.
Wait a minute. I want to go back there. I missed a little bit of that about the DNA evidence. Let's go back and listen to that. I'm just
Weapon. We don't know anything about a motive here.
Right. Well, those are great issues to consider and discuss. So, in addressing the murder weapon itself, we really don't need it. Would it be nice to have? Would it be closer, let's say, to creating the slam dunk? Yes, but I don't think it's pivotal. In terms of a theory, I, as a criminologist, have two theories. One of which is an acronym that I created. It's an acronym JAR: jealousy, anger, revenge. I think all three elements align here with this suspect and our victims. I think he was jealous of the social dynamic. He was angry that he wasn't a part of it, and he sought revenge in this horrendous, hideous act of violence. And the secondary theory I have, Nicole, and I've not heard anybody speak about it, but I'll present it to you and our viewers, and that is, I think that this suspect was so deeply entrenched in the information, the knowledge of our field, but particularly at that higher level of education, PhD, where we're very immersed in case studies. I think he became truly fascinated by those killers who have come before him, the Ted Bundys and the Dennis Raiders. And I think he decided to participate in his own personal case study to perpetrate this act of terror. I believe he thought he would get away with it. Thankfully, he did not. But I do believe if he did, he would have become a serial killer.
Wow. Doctor, I want to look at this from the other side because you certainly present such a strong argument there, but let's look at the other side of this. I mean, what's the argument for those who say, hey, this case may be all circumstantial because we don't have that motive, a solid motive. We don't, as far as we know, have a murder weapon. Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation.
All right, let's move on here. I always like this guy. I like watching him. His name's Dr. G. He does body language videos, and I always find his stuff pretty fun and fascinating. So let's see what he had to say about Kohberger's recent arraignment and, break down the body language. Now, again, body language, I guess, can be subjective. This guy is an expert in in body language, but we'll see what he has to say. We'll check this one out.
Hey, everybody. Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing more of Bryan Kohberger. We're going to be looking at his arraignment from May 22nd. We're going to see what his body language tells us when the judge is talking to him. And for people that aren't familiar with this case already, he's being charged with the murder of 4 college students. Before we get started, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. One thing I'm curious about is if this smile is done out of politeness for his attorney, or if it's done knowing that it's going to be used in the media. I really don't know how much access he has to things like the internet, magazines, all of that stuff. But that same smile last time during the last video got a lot of mileage. I've seen a lot of people use that exact picture on lots and lots of video covers. Let's go back and look at it again.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's actually a very good fake smile because you can see he's squinting his eyes on the side. And that's what we do when we actually feel happiness. There's no question he's not feeling happy right now, and it leaves his face faster than it entered it. But it doesn't change the fact that he is good at faking a smile. Maybe
it's kind of like one of those smiles that are like, yeah, and it's so odd how it turns on and turns off quickly. And we know that one of his lab back in DeSales, he talked about with his lab partner talked about him was being able to turn on that energy or that persona very quickly and turn it off. So it's very weird, that's the smiles that yeah, kind of one of those smiles. That's what I kind of get when I see it. But we'll play on here. I always find Dr. G's videos pretty fun and to see what he has to say. So
that's something he's practiced.
Against you, and the maximum penalties if you are found guilty or if you plead guilty. So I'm going to start with.
So what we're doing now is we're getting a baseline of his behaviors. He nods his head in recognition of what the judge is saying. Occasionally you see a jaw clench. Let's go back and look at that again.
The right. If you're right, the charges against you, and the maximum penalties if you are found.
And there was the jaw clench when he said the maximum penalties, because I think that's going to be a real point of, well, obviously it's a real point of stress. It would be for anybody with this. But whether or not the death penalty is going to be on the table, I am pretty sure is on his mind right now.
Guilty or if you plead guilty. So I'm going to start with the rights. You have a constitutional right. Do you understand these rights?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights?
No.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kohberger.
One thing to keep in mind, and the other video people have said in the comments, well, what if he's medicated? He seems sluggish and all of this stuff. There's nothing about the way that he's reacting right now that makes me think that he's heavily medicated on anything. He's responding quickly. When they asked him to stand up, he stood up quickly, he sat down quickly. His reactions seem like they're at a normal rhythm. So there's nothing right now that would indicate that he's on a bunch of heavy medication.
So let's go to the indictment. Do you have a copy of the indictment in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you see in the heading your name there. Is that your correctly spelled complete name?
Yes, it is.
Is that the correct birth date underneath your name?
Yes.
Are those the correct last four digits of your social security number?
Yes.
Thank you.
Something we're also seeing is that he nods when he agrees with.
You know who Kohberger reminds me of? He reminds me of, if you've ever seen the movie The Social Network, that Jesse Eisenberg that played Mark Zuckerberg in the movie. Just his like persona, the way he carries himself throughout that movie. If you've ever seen that movie, The Social Network, it's the Facebook movie. But yeah, he reminds me like a creepy version of like Jesse Eisenberg in that movie. Yeah, Loris is a very creepy version of him. Yeah, he's just almost just the way he is with the blank stare. I wish I could play some of the clips on here. Maybe I can just play the visuals from it if anybody hasn't seen that movie. Let me see. I won't play the sound, but I'll play the visuals. Hang on. Let me see if I can get a clip of him when he's in. Let's see. I'm trying to get a. Let me see. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna play. Let's get through Dr. G, and then I'm gonna play that really quick.
Something
I can't.
Important to note now, because if he ever takes the stand later, that can become significant.
I can't play the audio from it, but maybe I can just play like a couple of seconds of the video. So, all right, we'll keep playing on here.
All right, I'm going to read you the charges on the indictment, starting with count 1.
So what we're going to be looking at now is him being.
Yeah, let me pull this up too. You know, it's fallen angels. Every expert can give a different type of analysis, which is very, very, very interesting. Listening to different opinions, but at the end of the day, it's the jury that would make the decisions for justice. Absolutely, I completely, yes, it is the guy from Zombieland. I completely agree with that. But I just find these videos to be very, very fascinating to see what some of the experts say, and then, you know, as the trial goes on or concludes, you know, if they were correct in that. So, you know, again, there's no shame in playing these. No, you know, it's not bad to go through them. I just always like to see what these experts have to say. Like I said, we've gotten everybody else's opinion on YouTube, so let's hear what the experts have to say. All right, we'll keep playing through this.
Read the charges. Now, I want to watch the jaw, because what we see, one of his tells in terms of that he's feeling something, is that he clenches his jaw. That can be associated with stress, and also be associated with anger. I can't say which one he's feeling, but he's feeling something. Let's see if there's a pattern to when that happens.
About November, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder.
As you can see right now, he's pretty composed. We're not seeing a whole lot of body language about this so far, but let's keep watching. Let's briefly watch the intensity of his reactions when you go through each person. I'm just going to show a little clip, but I'm going to show a little clip of each one. Watch this.
Kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died.
Very little reaction, looking down for the most part.
Kill and murder Kayla Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing Kayla Gonzalez, from which she died. Count 4. All
right, mostly looking down. Didn't seem to be much clenching.
Yeah, you know what's funny? And before we even get to this, and I'm going to rewind this, when I think it's the Xana one that he gets kind of squabbly on. And I kind of noticed that too when I watched the arraignment. And I'm just curious to see if Dr. G is going to point something out about that. So let me just rewind that a little bit. But I do remember that from the original video.
Kayla Gonzalez, from which she died. Count 4.
All right, mostly looking down. Didn't seem to be much clenching.
Kill and murder Xana Kernodle. Excuse me. This is hard. I'm sorry. Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing Xana Kernodle, from which she died.
You see a lot of jaw clenching and him looking up and down.
Kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing Ethan Chapin, from which he died.
And he looks more calm during this one than any of the other ones. But there doesn't seem to be that same level of tension.
Signed on May.
Now, does this mean he did it? Not necessarily, but it does mean he was feeling different things when the 4 different names were read. And that's worth paying attention to. Now we're actually going to watch a different video for this part, because in this video, it closes up on his face. And I want you to be able to see the details, because this, I think, is consequential. Let's start watching.
2022 in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle.
So his jaw starts clenching as soon as Xana's name is brought up.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is hard. I'm sorry. Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing Xana Kernodle.
He's a lot more, it's funny to say the word animated, because I know he's very still. He's looking at the judge more. He's clenching his jaw a lot more. There's definitely a more visceral reaction from him during this than the other ones.
From which she died.
Part of the reason that body language analysis can be helpful is it helps us hone in on what elicits a reaction. Why that's eliciting a reaction, we'd find out with more investigation. But it tells us if we were to really focus on one of the 4 victims, based on this, I would focus on Xana. Now, I don't know if there's a special connection with her. I don't know why he reacted strongly to her, but that's the one I would focus on, and I would press him on if he was providing testimony, for example, and I was a prosecutor. That's one that I would hope that I would get a stronger reaction out of. So hopefully this video is helping you continue to develop a baseline about his behavior. I know there's a lot of people that believe that he is innocent, and we're going to find out over the course of the trial. But at the very least, we're getting an idea of what behaviors he shows under pressure. And it helps us better understand the things that we should focus on and pay attention to. Hopefully we get to see this trial. We don't know whether or not it's going to air on the internet or on TV yet. But if it does, I can assure you I'll be covering it a lot more. Last couple of things before we get finished up. One, I wanted to remind you I am working on a body language course. And if you want to get on the wait list for that, it's in the description below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right. Thanks for watching.
I like watching Dr. G. Go over and subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. He always drops really great videos. And, you know, I hope he doesn't mind me showing his video here on my channel. So let's see this. Fallen Angel says, Bryan, I do agree with you. I think Xana was more his type than Maddie or Kaylee. Maybe he knows Xana's sister, Jasmine, went to WSU, or Xana mom, Kara. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't think that Xana, just knowing a little bit about, you know, studying him and looking over his past, I think that Kaylee or more Maddie would have been his type. I think that just in my opinion on this, that you know, I've had Laura on many times on the panel. We've discussed this a lot, and we think that Kaylee was the target. Now, we could be completely wrong. We're just speculating. We're just giving our opinion in this. But yeah, we had thought all along that it was it was Kaylee. And you know, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. But that's a great question. It is kind of strange, though. He did clinch a little bit and kind of shuffle a little bit. His lips were moving. You know, that could just be maybe, you know, we have always thought that, you know, he meant to go to the 3rd floor. He ends up, unfortunately, murdering Kaylee and Maddie. And then we had thought that he had that interaction with Xana when he was trying to leave. And then that's what happened with Xana and Ethan. So we did do a stream about this. You can go back and watch that stream if you haven't seen it yet. Excuse me. And I'm just trying to think here. So Laura says, I believe his reaction was due to the fact that had Xana not run into him, he could have gotten away with this. Yeah, I mean, that's something that we've always thought. And I can actually, before the end of the stream, I can drop that. Excuse me. My voice is really clogged up tonight. I can drop that video that we did. Yeah, we called it The Encounter. And Laura and I had a really great discussion about that. And I'll drop that in the chat. If you haven't seen that yet, you can go back and watch it after the stream. And that's the link for it there. So yeah, go over and check that out. And that gives you kind of the whole, the whole history on what we thought actually happened that night. So we're going to keep moving on here. I have, geez, man, my voice is really clogged tonight. The allergies are getting crazy. Oh yeah, I want to look, and I just want to pull this up. So Jesse Eisenstein, and this was him in the social network, and you can see him to the left where my pointer is. And I'll play a little bit of this. Hopefully I don't get whacked on it. I'm not going to play in the audio, but you can kind of see the mannerisms, and it just so reminds me of Kohberger. Just kind of that odd. Just has that Kohberger-ness about him. It just so reminds me of him. But yeah, if you haven't seen The Social Network, it's a really great movie, and gives you kind of the whole history of Facebook and how it happened, and Zuckerberg, just how he basically screwed over a lot of people to get where he was. But that so reminds me of Kohberger. So I'm not going to play too much of that. But let's go into this. And I found this very fascinating. This gentleman's name is a retired NYPD homicide sergeant, Bill Cannon. His channel is called Police Off the Cuff. And he talks about, what is the most important aspects for the prosecution of Bryan Kohberger. So let's pull this up. This one's about an hour. It's probably going to take us to the end of the stream. And let's just hear what he has to say. Again, tonight, we're just listening to what the experts have to say on this case. If you're just popping in, we've heard a lot of YouTubers give their speculation. You've heard this a lot on my channel as well. And I thought that tonight we would go through and do a couple of, expert streams, what they have to say, what they've been saying on their channel. People that have been in the field, have worked in the field, retired police officers, retired FBI agents. So let's hear this perspective here. This guy's really good.
Explain to you what probable cause is, which is the lowest standard of that the criminal justice system can have. But based on probable cause, of course, this is why Bryan Kohberger was arrested. And the definition of probable cause are facts and circumstances.
I think he goes on Duty Ron as well, too. I think he's done some segments with him, and I like Duty Ron as well, too.
That would allow a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been committed and the person being arrested committed that crime. All right, that's like word for word. That doesn't mean he's guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty. That means that's enough to make an arrest. In the law of arrest, that's probable cause. So based on certain factors, and what established the probable cause in the very beginnings of this case, and in the very beginnings, it was a ladder. You talk about a ladder of suspicion, and the ladder of suspicion, the first thing they really had, besides, of course, the crime.
By the way, before I forget, I want to make sure that I just thank all of the people that have been watching and sending over questions for that lawyer. You guys have sent an amazing list of questions. I can't wait to get those over. I'm going to compile that email, send it over to him on Wednesday, and then hopefully we'll get up a time and set up a time for him to come on the panel and answer some of these questions that have been going on in this case. Maybe give some angles to what he thinks and where this case could possibly go through the court proceedings. So really great questions. I appreciate all of that. If you haven't already, we got 72 likes down there. I'd love to get to 100 likes. If you haven't already, just go down there and smash that like button. It takes like 2 seconds to do that. I really would appreciate it.
Smash, smash,
Right, playing through here.
Scene, which didn't, we don't know even to this day whether or not the crime scene pointed in the direction of Bryan Kohberger. In essence, is his blood in that crime scene? Is his blood commingled with the blood of the victims? We don't know that to this day. So let's think of what the actual probable cause was very early on in this case. And what it was the white Hyundai Elantra. You remember very early on in this case, the police said, we're looking for a white 2011 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. And we didn't know, and they didn't release this at the point, but that vehicle was caught on video pulling up into the house, 1122 King Road, into the backyard, parking in the back of that house. So that was what first established the probable cause. And then when the security officer at Washington State University found the car and saw that it was registered to one Bryan Kohberger, they started connecting the dots together, right? And then, of course, we have the sheath, the K-bar sheath, where initially was matched to Bryan Kohberger's father's DNA, which was like a 99.9% chance that the killer or the person being charged was related. His DNA was related to his father's. And then, of course, they would have matched his DNA to that knife sheath. So those were the things that gave the police probable cause, where they followed him across the country to Pennsylvania. Then we watched those 2 car stops, of course, by the Indiana State Police. And not that those car stops gave probable cause, but if you recall, I'm showing you the picture on the screen, there seems to be a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of nervousness on the part of Bryan Kohberger and his father in this car stop. Why was he pulled over? We don't, allegedly for following too closely to another vehicle. But we don't know if, in fact, that was true, or if the Indiana State Police was told or asked to stop his vehicle by the FBI, by the Idaho State Police. I would believe that more than that it was just a random car stop, because that really to me wouldn't make sense that it was just a random car stop and they didn't know who he was, and the FBI is following him across the nation, and they just allow a random law enforcement agency to pull him over. I find that hard to believe. Many things could go wrong, and I think that they would want it to be a set up car stop, that they wanted to be in control of it, to advise the state trooper, this is who you're pulling over, this is what we think he did. We just want you to ask him a couple of questions, see what's inside the car, watch his demeanor. And of course, the whole thing was on body-worn video. So when we talk about body-worn video, really pretty damn good piece of evidence, right? Let me go back a little bit to the law and crime person analyzing the grand jury minutes.
Than the experts that the prosecution has. So it's not just the defense that wants to evaluate and review this testimony or whatever exhibits that exist. They want their experts to be able to do the same, so they can have their best understanding of what the evidence is and make their own determination of what it means.
So after the defense made their motion here, the prosecution has already asked for clarification about what.
So Natalie B says, Bryan, why don't you check out True Crime Design? They talk about the 911 cover-up. Excellent video, and you will change your mind thinking that BK is guilty. Well, here's the thing. I look at the facts. We look at the facts on this, and we look at the evidence that's put in front of us. So if there's any type of like legal document or any document out there that's been put through the court about a 911 cover-up, I'd love to see it. You can email me at theopinionatedidiot@gmail.com. Right now, I think that in this case, the lot of the evidence points towards Bryan Kohberger being the alleged person that did this. So unless, when we start getting into the trial, maybe something comes out that changes my mind. Right now, I do think that, they have the right person in custody. And, if there's any type of cover up or anything like that, I'm sure that it will come out in the court proceedings. And I would love to explore that if that comes up. So, but thanks for sending out that chat. I appreciate that. All right, let's keep playing through here.
What the defense could potentially mean about this exculpatory information. So, Julie, what could the defense mean?
So we don't know. And the reason, obviously, anytime you're a defense attorney, you are looking for things to help your case. Now, something that the prosecution may not view as exculpatory or helpful to the defense can be viewed very differently by the defense. And that's why, there's often a disagreement as to whether or not something is exculpatory or not. And so the defense may not have any specific knowledge of exculpatory material. They may, in a sense, be doing what we call a fishing expedition. But if I'm the defense, I'm going to be doing that fishing expedition because I'm going to want to make sure I have anything that leads in a different direction than my client.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would want as much information.
Yeah, so Laura's saying, Natalie B, I would definitely take a listen to it and see what they have to say. It looks like a 17 minutes, so not a huge investment in time. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out too. But again, we stick to the facts here. We stick to all the documents that are released. And, if there was any type of that information or someone covering up a call, I'm sure that we would hear about it now or hear about it in trial. And it just remains to be seen, but yeah, certainly. Thanks for pointing that out. And I'll definitely take a look at it. Excuse me.
Information as they have, so the defense could decide we want to use this, we don't want to use this,
Billy.
etc. But this request from the defense comes as they were likely ramping up for that lengthy preliminary hearing that was set for next month, but now that's no longer going to happen. Is that itself a huge blow for the defense?
Anytime you have a preliminary hearing instead of a grand jury presentation, the one thing that the defense has an opportunity to do is hear the evidence and cross-examine the witnesses. It is a huge blow for the defense that they don't have an opportunity to have a preliminary hearing. And why is that? One, in a preliminary hearing, they get to hear the witnesses live instead of just seeing a transcript from the grand jury. Two, they get to cross-examine the witnesses. which can potentially lead to inconsistent statements for trial, and give them a good exposure as to what they can expect at the trial. So I think it was disappointing for the defense when they learned that a grand jury was indicted instead of going through a preliminary hearing.
We do now know, though, that there is an October 2nd trial date set. Is that enough time for the prosecution and defense to prepare for this?
You know, folks, that October 2nd date set for a trial date, I think that was just procedural. There's no way on this earth that this case will be ready to go on October 2nd. I think, if anything, because also that this is a potential death penalty case, that you're not going to see this case go probably till 2024.
Yeah, I think
so. We're talking January, February. And so the October 22nd date, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. And think of all the evidence right now that the defense has yet to be presented. And we're going to talk about discovery. For example, all the digital evidence, the cell phones, right? The pinging of cell sites, the computer evidence, the social media evidence, right? Look, we all know that Bryan Kohberger had reconned 1122 King Road 12 times prior to November 13th, which was the day the quadruple murders occurred at 04:10 in the morning, at 4:10 a.m. in the morning. And prior to that, he reconned it. The other thing is, we know from digital evidence is that he turned his cell phone off.
Mhm.
He turned his cell phone off. And if I had Mike Geary on, he would say, well, that's something called consciousness of guilt. He turned off his cell phone because he knows that the police will be and would be tracking his cell phone. So
Juice Glamour says, at Brian, yes, smart to stick to the facts, yet allow room for the defense evidence to be considered, if any. Absolutely. And as of right now, what we see in the legal documents is there's only been 2 motions by the defense to add evidence in. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the legal documents in quite a while, but when Laura and I went over them a couple of weeks ago, there's only been two motions by the defense for evidence, and it took them a hell of a long time to get that evidence in. Now, my speculation is this, and this is my opinion. I think there is a possibility that this could be being wow, I'm going to really put this out here. This is kind of my opinion. It might not be the opinion of everybody else, but I think that behind the scenes, and I've talked to a couple other people, what they think too is that there may be a deal being made. Once all of this evidence gets put out there, there may be a possibility of a deal being made. Maybe the fact that if he pleads guilty, they get the death penalty off the table. Now, I'm only speculating here. This could be going on right now. But I have a strong feeling that some of this he may be approached by this. And I wouldn't think, why not? Why wouldn't he be approached about this option right now? So, it's purely speculation. We don't really know what's going on. We don't know the full scale of the evidence, but I do feel that there is a lot more evidence that's going to come out in this case. And I think there's going to be a lot of wow moments for some people once they start to hear it. So, that digital footprint, 51 terabytes of data to go through, what was it? Over 10,000 files of documents and photos. There's a lot of evidence on the table to sift through for either side to go through, defense and prosecution. And then, we saw all those additional lawyers that were brought in to kind of go through all of this together and filter through all of this. So, it's going to be a while. I don't think October 2nd is going to be the exact trial date. I think it will get delayed and it will go into to 2024 as well. So if this does end up going to trial. But let's keep playing through here.
Incredible. All these things. And I played this 3D examination. It's sort of a timeline for you guys. And to me, it's one of the best things that I've seen done on this case. I'm just going to play it again and thank the young lady that made it. Let me play it a little bit here.
Stephanie and Dylan were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here.
Is this the controversial video that got stolen and someone was trying to say that it was theirs? And I've heard about this video. I've actually watched this video. Wasn't this was like a controversial video, wasn't it? Someone got bagged for like stealing it and trying to claim that it was theirs. I don't know. Maybe you all know in the chat room.
On the second floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the third floor. The dog was located on the third floor and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4.
Uh-oh, his mic went off. Bill, your mic is off. What are you doing? Uh-oh, Bill's mic's off. I don't think he's realized it yet. Oh no, he's still talking. Oh no, his mic is completely off.
Again, strong evidence, but
All right, let's see.
again, if you're a defense attorney,
Uh-oh.
you're going to try to create doubt and say, well, how do we know what that was?
Oh, poor Bill.
How do we know that was coming
Nice
from
guy to laugh
that
at.
house and not somewhere else? So again, strong evidence, but not, slam dunk evidence, as we would say.
We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
Pretty amazing display. Wonderful 3D recreation of what occurred, of what we think occurred. So if this young lady that made this, and I don't have a name available to you right now, but if she can do this amazing job and not be a law enforcement expert, can you imagine the presentation that paid law enforcement 3D recreators, or when they use the actual video that recorded his car, the car that they have on video? And if they can do a recreation from that, won't that be incredible? Jane C., thank you for the 199 super sticker. Wow, in 9 minutes, he must have left DNA in that hurry. Guys, as we have said so many times, and the great Barbara Butcher, who I praise all the time, and I know a lot of you guys know her from Duty Ron's show, the former chief of staff of the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, one of the top medical legal investigators in the world, not just the country, in the world, partnered her with Ed Wallace, a NYPD first grade crime scene detective. And they were queried over this case. And they were asked, what percentage would you give from this violent crime scene that Bryan Kohberger cut himself and left his blood inside that crime scene? And their answers, both of them, not together, separately, was there's a 99% chance, 99.9% chance he left his blood in that crime scene. Have we heard anything about the crime scene, about the results of?
Yeah, let's do this real quick. I just want to show this really quick because I was seeing some things about Alford plea. Now, Alford plea, this is in Idaho Falls. What is an Alford plea? An Alford plea is a type of plea where defendant does not admit guilt to being guilty to the judge. A person who enters an Alford plea admits that the evidence and prosecutors would be presented at trial would be enough to prove the person's guilty, but the defendant does not have to admit committing the crime like they do in a standard plea of guilt guilty. In an Alford plea, the court still imposes punishment as if the person pled guilty, even though the person does not actually admit guilt. Now, I'm not sure, the how that all works, I guess, down the line in a process, like if you've been convicted. I know that of two famous cases that I know of that had Alford pleas was the West Memphis Three, and the only reason they pled Alford was because Damien was on death row and was going to be executed at some point. So to get him off death row and get him out and be free, they pled Alford. And that was after like being in jail for like, I think 18 or 20 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. The other case I know about Alford that dragged on for exuberant amount of time was the case that they had the Netflix special on, The Staircase. Michael Peterson, I believe it was named. But I think that again is something that has, you have to go through a long court proceeding before you can enter that. So I'm not a legal lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not sure how all that works. I don't know if you can just step up and just plea Alford right away. I'm not sure of the laws in Idaho. So it's just something to think about, consider. Michael Peterson
of the crime scene.
I'm not sure
about the results.
procedure in Idaho law of entering an Alford plea. I'm not sure what stage you can do that in Idaho. So laws could be different in different states. I'm not sure if like Alford plea is just the same across all states. It may be, but I know in those particular cases, they were very long down the road in those trials. So we'll keep playing through here.
Toxicology about the results of the autopsies? No, we haven't. Was any of that presented to the grand jury? I bet you the defense would want that. I bet you they would want to know that presented. Was that?
That's what I was just saying. Christine says people plead the Alford plea to get out of jail. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think you have to go through a long series and actually be convicted, and you go to jail and you may be in jail for a long time, and it's basically like a plea to get out. I don't think that you can just step up and plead Alford. I may be wrong on that. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe that's something that I can ask the lawyer that's going to come on this channel. Maybe that's something that I can ask them, since I'm seeing a lot of that in the chat. So really great question, and bringing that up. It's really good.
Presented to the grand jury, because then that would be in the evidence. Was any of that evidence presented to the grand jury? So those are some of the things that we want to know. And
I don't think
we don't have that information right now. And again, with the discovery,
I think Christine's right. And like I said, it was the two cases that I know of, West Memphis 3 and the Michael Peterson case. They pled Alford to get out of jail. So they're assuming guilt under the definition, but they're pleading innocent. It still goes on their record, but they serve enough time, and they're able to get out of jail. So
they haven't gotten that yet. That information has not come back. We always hear that the victims, some of them, or one or two of them, fought back. So potentially, is there DNA evidence, the skin of Bryan Kohberger underneath the fingernails of one of the victims that struggled to fought for their lives, or any other DNA that he left on the scene? Hairs, fibers. We all know Locard's principle of exchange. I always remember Ed Wallace when I'm about to say theory of exchange. It's Dr. Edmund Locard's principle of exchange. And what that simply says is, when someone goes into a crime scene, they take something from the outside or from their body, and they leave it there. And conversely, they take something from the crime scene and they take that with them. And that's called evidence exchange, where, for example, that's why the warrant on Bryan Kohberger's car is so important, because the potential that he brought blood, hair, fibers, DNA of the victims into his car are extremely high. And think of how many bites of the apple that the police would get at that. His car, his apartment in Washington State, his parents' house in Pennsylvania, his computer,
Smash, smash.
potentially his office, if he had his own office at Washington State University where he was a teaching assistant.
Wow.
All of those things were fair game for warrants.
Susie says, my son took an Alford plea and the judge rejected the plea and gave him even more time. So he did 6 years instead of pleading out 5. Wow. That's crazy. Sorry.
All those things were fair game. All those things were fair game for the police to search warrants. Lula Morocco, Bill, what father flies across country and spends?
Natalie B thinks that they're not going to find anything in Kohberger's car. Let's ask the room. So let's end this poll here. I asked it a little while ago. Do you think law enforcement has the murder weapon? 67% say no. 32% say yes. So let's do this. Let's start up another poll. Do you think that LE has found any evidence in BK's car? All right, let's ask the room. Let's see what everybody says. Yes, no, maybe so. Boom. Let's ask the crowd. Poll at the top. Let's see what everybody thinks. All right, let's keep playing.
Spends the night, wakes up and doesn't immediately say, where's the shower curtain, son? Gets pulled over twice in Indy, cleans the car, bleach sister, doubts him. You know, Lou, I agree with all of that, but all of that is not evidence. The family is not going to testify against their brother, or in this case, the son.
Let's see.
Bryan Kohberger's father is not going to testify against him. So we know. Kim Alston, hi, Juror 13. Good to see you. In my opinion, police off the cuff. Well, thank you. I don't want to read, but thank you so much, Kim, for all that praise. I was thinking you were going to say something about the case. Erin, listen, his parents are odd birds. Some people are just odd and weird. Sad because I love my husband, but his parents are odd birds. Look, we all have odd people in our families, right?
That's great.
And,
congratulations, Susie.
You know, a lot of analysis also, besides the evidence, which is the most important.
So, as Susie just explained, an Alford plea can sometimes backfire. Unfortunately, Alford himself did not get out, and he died in prison. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. We got a $2. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We got a new member. Ron Jones has become a new member of the channel. We appreciate you so much for your contribution. We love our members. We love our monthly supporters. Thank you. That's a new member. That's a new member right there. I got to do a sound clip of that. New member. New member. All right, let's keep playing this. We got another new member. Another new member of the channel. Uber is a new member of the channel. A new member. Thank you so much. Thank you. And please make sure to smash that like button.
Smash, smash, smash.
Important thing. Testimonial evidence. We haven't even spoke about testimonial evidence. And obviously, the defense and the prosecution are going to bring in witnesses to testify for the defense, for the prosecution. We don't know that yet, right? Who they have. The results of all these warrants, and we've got a picture of some of these warrants in regards to some of the things that they recovered.
Boston in the house. Amy in Boston. Boston, Boston, Boston. My Celtics tomorrow. My Celtics tomorrow. They got to win. They got to win. They are going to a Game 7 at the Garden tomorrow. Game 7 at the Garden. And this could be the first time that an NBA team comes back from 0-3 down and wins 4 in a row to go to the finals. That'll be the first time any NBA team has ever been down 0-3 to come back and win 4 in a row. Unbelievable stuff. But that game last night was ridiculous.
Not everything. And we're going to be just as surprised as the defense when we hear a lot about some of the evidence that has been recovered. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories.
God.
If you like real crime stories from a police perspective, and I always say that because we have a different perspective than many other folks. If you like it from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. So go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe, give us a thumbs up, like us on YouTube. And if you want to support us financially, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel memberships. We count them, 5 different levels. And you see the folks in the green font in the chat. They're part of our YouTube channel membership family. And we really, really appreciate them, and they support Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. A lot of the things, of course, last week.
Why would I be making fun of your accent? I live in Massachusetts. Let's see. I got a $1.99 super sticker from Lisa. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Great cash, homie.
Oh, we got a Knicks fan. What happened to your Knicks? Where are they?
We had a lot of people. We got all kinds of experts on every single channel. And it seems like it's going 24/7. And one of the things that I sort of enjoy to watch, but I don't put 100% credence in it. I've watched my detectives for years interview people, and some of the greatest interviewers and interrogators in the NYPD were the ones that could.
All right, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I think he's going to play a couple more videos here. Let's see what he has to say about Jesse Weber.
Body language. Everybody knows that. The good news is I have someone with me here today who is an expert. Joining me is Susan Constantine Perfido, the president of the Human Behavior Academy, the president of the Human Behavior Lab. Susan is an expert in reading body language and is a trial consultant. Susan, so good to have you here on Sidebar.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Folks, it's so interesting that she's a trial consultant, because do you think that the defense will be having a body language expert at the trial?
Quite possibly.
You bet. I think I would bet a large amount of money on the fact that that's going to happen.
Of course. So we have a lot of video to go through. You're the perfect person to talk about it. I'm going to start in chronological order. So first up, I want to start with when Bryan Kohberger was stopped by police 1 month before the killings. So he gets pulled over for running a red light in Washington State. Take a look.
Hello, I am Officer Langus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep.
This, of course, is a very interesting stop, because this stop, of course, happened a month before the murders. And when you see his body language in this, and I'll let the expert talk, but it's a lot different than his body language was post the murders.
The moitas.
Do you have the registration and insurance?
We just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
You know, folks, you also have to realize he's a PhD student in criminology. Do you think he knows anything about what to say and what not to say when you're pulled over by the police? I think he should. Most people should know what to do and what to say when they're pulled over by the police, because there's definitely do's and don'ts, and he seems like he's pretty good at it.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in their intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done? Just
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington. So
do you know that for a fact, Natalie?
just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation. And then then you're running a red light. So it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go. Because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, then you're blocking. So
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with.
This is probably the clearest video we have of him, and most up close. Again, what do you think? This is about 1 month before the killings.
Yeah, so there's nothing that's really overt that stands out to me here. This is beforehand, so there's not cognitive load. He's not being watched or being pulled over because they think he's a suspect. So you don't see the typical glare stare that you see in later videos. He seems to be working with a police officer. The issue is that when I'm watching his eye movements and he's describing what had occurred, like he was in the middle of the intersection, and then he's also comparing it to his hometown. His eyes move side to side. You don't see him in visual recall or visual memory, which is upward. He tends to go side to side. And everything that I've seen with him, he tends to be very much of an internal processor. And then he begins to question the officer. He's not combative, but on the other hand, he's still trying to work his way out of it to have some sort of logic. So that tells me a lot about how he thinks and how he processes. He tends to be a very chronological analyzer and thinker.
Big thing that I take away from this, a few things. One, the fact that he's asking these questions and has this level of what I would say maybe comfort with the officer. This is a PhD student in criminology. Part of me feels like he's interested in learning the law. He's interested in learning, like, how is the police officer stopping him? This is my take. I'm not an expert. But what's the most alarming thing for me, this is a 1 month before allegedly killing 4 people. And there's been evidence that he's been at that residence or in that neighborhood for a time. It hasn't been entirely clear if he was following at least one of the victims or stalking or how pre-planned this was. But for somebody who a month later is going to murder 4 people, that's the allegation. How do you look at him? I mean, what should we be thinking about when we look at him there? I mean, that's the thing that gets me. I'm trying to see if there's anything there that would get any.
Folks there, and I see what Jesse Weber is bringing up here, but in this instance, of course, and this is pre-November 13th, which we know what the quadruple murders happened on November 13th. He's very cool, calm, and collective, like any of us might be, although most people, when they get pulled over by the police, are quite nervous. I even get nervous, and I'm a former cop, and I get nervous. You get pulled over. It's like not an everyday occurrence.
Right.
And for most people, and a lot of times you can't even tell where the lights and the sirens are coming from. You look around and it's it's not an everyday thing. But again, in this stop, he's very cool. He's very calm. He's very collective.
Indication he's about to commit a quadruple homicide.
Well, I have to share with you one thing that I did, and I'm going to kind of go off the grid a little bit here because he had written a letter or what his whole project was going to be about, right? We know that he's a PhD student, and he was trying to get people that would enter into this test or this analysis. Remember that? Well,
the Reddit survey, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Reddit survey, and also too that he was also writing. There was it wasn't a manifesto, but it was very similar to it. In that data was really a lot of wealth of information, because one of the things that we can learn about language is when they use contempt, anger, disgust types of language, it will tell us the percentage of the possibility of him carrying out a deadly act, like a terrorist act, a lone shooter act. So I happen to have run all that stuff through Decipher, which is a product that I have out of Sweden, which is used for counterterrorism. And I ran it through. He came up at 95% a surety that he was going to commit a violent act. So with that being said, why didn't somebody, he was already kind of.
That's really interesting. She put his language into a database that can predict.
Wow.
Very, very interesting. I don't know where that database exists from, but she mentioned the name of it, and he came back as a 95% chance he was going to commit a violent act. That's pretty amazing.
On the radar, why didn't they run this through or analyze his language? So his language in itself told volumes. Now we're talking about demeanor, and that's what we're talking about today. But I want to let you know, language and words and body movements and facial expressions, all that kind of tie together and tells you a lot about the person and their motive or intent.
I think this is fascinating. So let's move on to another traffic stop. Guy's like the worst driver of all time. He gets pulled over more than anybody we've ever seen. So now, this is from December 15th. This is after the killings. And we're going to play two videos. First, so he gets pulled over in Indiana while driving home to Pennsylvania. He's driving in the car with his father, and he's pulled over the first time for following a car too closely. Let's take a listen to some of that.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man.
You could see his face here. You want to compare the difference between the stop 1 month prior to the murder and this now. His eyes are buggy. He's got that really nervous look on his face. It's night and day from the previous car stop.
Yeah, 100%.
He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and
And I've done many playbacks of Steve Gonzalez's words. Many playbacks. If you go back and watch a lot of my lives, we have dug up and analyzed a lot of his conversations. So we've done it here a lot on this channel. There's one particular interview that's very striking and I think very telling, is the one when him and Christy, I think it was 6 weeks out. I think they still haven't caught the alleged suspect at that point. And Steve Gonzalez was very telling in that video, talking about, things that might have happened going on in that house that night. And there's been a recent video when Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, when we're going through the whole, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversy about, did they testify in front of the the grand jury? He had an interview during that whole process as well too, and all that speculation. And he talked about, he said, I think there was a couple weeks after, he said that, from what we're understanding, because the two girls are talking now, not talking to the media, but talking amongst friends or family, maybe to some of their family members. And he said, we're getting a better understanding of what happened that night. So, and I don't want to say like he seems a little bit more at ease, but I think that he's at a different stage of grieving now. So those two videos are very, very interesting. And again, we've done a lot of breaking down of his conversations here on the channel. So excuse me, let's keep playing through this here.
What's WSU? Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're slightly punchy because we drive for hours,
days.
Folks, one of the things about this car stop, and
you got to remember, I think, and I've heard this as well too, Steve, Kaylee was on the family plan, so Steve most likely had access to her phone right away and could have downloaded all her data. So he's probably looked through all of that and tried to make ends of what happened within that time period. So you have to think about that as well too. I'm sure that they probably had a private investigator that they've hired and just haven't let anybody know about it. And I'm sure they've done their digging around too. I mean, of course, I would look at it this way. If my daughter and her best friend was murdered along with 2 other people in a house, you damn well straight I'd have a private investigator hired and started to look into some things. If I wasn't getting answers from law enforcement around that specific time or not getting anything at all, the law enforcement has kept this case extremely close to the vest. And, I think 1, that's to not taint the potential jury pool. And 2, they don't really want a lot of this stuff out in the media. Now, I know that sparked a lot of speculation, a lot of conspiracy, that they're just pinning this on Bryan Kohberger. I just don't think they want any leaks out there. I don't think they want a lot of things. And I think it's going to be very surprising when this goes to trial and a lot of this evidence starts to come out. I think there's going to be a lot of wow moments in this. And it could be on either side. It could be for his guilt or his innocence. But again, I've always said this as well too, is that, Bryan Kohberger, as it stands right now, is innocent until proven guilty. He's due that due process in court. And, if Bryan Kohberger turns to be not guilty in this case, then we still have a lot of work to do. And I have a lot of work to do here on this channel to figure out who did this, try to figure this out, put the pieces together, and hopefully we can get closer to finding that person that did this and bring some solace to these families. So let's keep playing on.
Questioned it from day one. I have no doubt in my mind that the FBI or the Idaho State Police put up the Indiana State Police to pulling this car over. I do not believe this was a random car stop because they were under surveillance. They were being followed by the FBI. And I don't buy that they just let an anonymous or happenstance that the Idaho State Police just pulled them over.
That very well may be true. That's why we may see this trial moved. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Moscow's a very, very small town. This may get moved. So let's keep playing through here.
Over by actually, you would think they would be following them. They would let the local jurisdictions know potentially. Something. Sometimes the FBI does a lot of secret squirrel things, and they don't let people know things that would protect law enforcement from potential danger. So, but I think that these car stops were definitely choreographed.
Good drive. Well, almost good. Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Jane C, thank you for the 199 super sticker. Do please get a bad vibe before they know. Something, when you can read body language as a police officer, and we have Lieutenant Pete Pranzo in the chat, who was a street crime lieutenant, outstanding NYPD officer, and you could read people. And there's times when we would do car stops or felony car stops, and you could feel the hair on the back of your neck raise up. And I'm a firm believer that instincts are everything. And when your instincts tell you something's wrong, something is really badly wrong. And I believe that 100%. And I think Lieutenant Pete, who's in the chat, he would tell you the same thing, that you feel the hair on the back of your neck stand up, there's a problem.
Yeah, let's go up to this chat and take a look so far. So right now, I asked the question, is law enforcement, do you think law enforcement, excuse me, do you think that I'll get through this. Do you think that law enforcement has found any evidence in BK's car? And 66 of you think yes, and 34% say no. So we'll keep playing that poll. Keep playing that poll. We'll keep that poll up there. I don't know why that sounded so funny, but we'll keep that poll up. We'll keep that poll up there. And keep playing on.
Problem. There's a real big problem.
Mass shooting and everything. Where?
Yeah, true. I can't wait to hear what the defense story is. Yeah, me too. I cannot wait. All right, let's keep playing this.
interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university.
Mm-hmm. So y'all work at the university there?
Actually, you were there.
Oh.
Okay. I felt that too. Marla.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident just yesterday, or?
This happened yesterday.
Be a possibility, Samantha.
I'm not sure the institution was, but they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And then you don't know about that actually.
Interesting. Wow. So do me a favor, don't follow too close, okay? All right.
Okay. Now, later on, he gets pulled over again for doing the same thing. Let's take a look at that.
Folks, I'm really not buying that these were random car stops. So,
No.
Jesse
They were.
Weber
They were
is buying it. I don't buy it. I think these were choreographed car stops, cooperation between law enforcement. That's my opinion. Could I be wrong? I can always be wrong, but this is my hunch.
Here she says, a clean car does not mean they can't get evidence. That's completely 100% true. Christine sent a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Before we sign off tonight, let's remember our fallen soldiers of Memorial Day. Absolutely. And I will let you in on a little bit of a story regarding my family history with the military. I had 8, you can count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 great uncles, all going to World War II at the same time. All of my 8 great uncles made it out alive and back here to the US to go on to be firefighters in Massachusetts. There's actually a memorial in a town that is close to Boston, Massachusetts, that my 8 great uncles are a part of. And then there is a huge memorial up in York, Maine, representing my 8 great uncles as well. So my family went over and kicked a lot of Nazi ass, which is fantastic. So proud of that. And amazing story that they all made it back alive. I believe 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, and 1 Bronze Star between all of them, if I remember the medals correctly. And a couple of them were at the Battle of the Bulge. I do know that. And another key pivotal, not D-Day, but another key pivotal battle of that war as well too. And there's stories out there that they never fought together, but they did pass each other through their routes and throughout the war. So pretty cool stuff. So I do want to honor all of the soldiers out there that have fought in the honor of this great country. Without all of you, I would not be here right now. And I do believe a lot in this country, and I believe I love America and I love being here, and I would not be able to do this in any other country. So really, really cool stuff. And so thank yous to all our vets that are current and have passed for this great country. So yeah, Christine, that was great. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, let's keep playing through here. I'm just going to wrap this up probably in about another, well, we'll get through this portion of the video, and then I'll come back. And I believe I'm going to do a couple part series on this. So we'll be back sometime this week. I don't think it's going to be Tuesday night. I'm probably going to do it on Wednesday, which is an off night for me. I have a pretty rigorous work schedule this week. So we'll figure something out. All right, let's keep playing. World War III? Not quite there yet. World War III. Oh, geez, I hope not.
You guys did?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You got stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV? Okay. All right.
Okay, now it's really hard to hear him in that one, and you don't really see him in that second video. But Susan, here's my take on this, right? If he did this, he's the killer. He could be thinking, "Wow, I'm about to get arrested. I'm about to get arrested for murder." It's my take about his initial impression of that. But what do you think?
Well, when I'm looking at his body language throughout, I want you to pay attention to the lack of eye blinking and that very blank, empty stare or the glare. He has this glare about him. And when he is in that place, it's called fight or flight, right? So he's really hyper aware, because when you think about if he had committed these crimes, these horrible crimes, he's on high alert. He's in that fight or flight response. So that's where his eyes are very frozen. His eye pupil dilation is larger. And this kind of gives you indication, why is he feeling this sense of fear? The other thing is he has a very cold kind of iciness about him. He's looking over at his father for affirmation. He does his very quick little jarts. It's not like he's turned towards the officer listening and then nodding his head. And it would be a way of non-verbally saying, I understand you, I hear what you're saying, and they're following him. He's not doing that. He's looking straight ahead. Wow. He's darting off. He's coming back. He's darting off with that very blanket stare. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is how he corrected his dad when he was talking about that there was a shooting. There wasn't a shooting. He says, oh, that we don't know that yet. So it's interesting that he came in and he actually said that. And again, when you think about it, he questions people. So when we go back to the first video, what did he do? He questioned the logic or questioned what the officer was saying. But really what he's really trying to do is to gather intel for himself to knowing how to then move forward with this next question.
Do you get a sense of relief when the officers leave?
Well, he knows, number one, that he's being questioned, right? So I don't know if I would say a sense of relief, like where his shoulders are slumped down and he breathes out. That's kind of like, okay, we got through that one. He didn't. He's trying to keep very collected. So when he's ready to go, he's ready to go. So I guess that would be the indicator that he was ready, that he was, the fear had dropped. Now he's ready to go again, but he's on high alert. So that's what I'm seeing here more than anything else, because when I'm looking at his facial expressions, he has this very intense expression. You can see it in his forehead. You see that.
Guys, 100%. I mean, you look at his face and he is really raised up. That's an old street crime expression. He's raised up. He's suspicious. We would see that Lieutenant Pete Pranzo and some of my compadres, if this was in New York City, we'd be pulling him out of the car and tossing the car for a gun because he's acting extremely suspiciously.
This we call a bulge that comes across the forehead. It's when he is leaning, his head goes down, or his forehead goes down, and then he raises his eyebrows. That's what we call a fear response, but he's borderline paranoid. So when I'm analyzing someone, I'm analyzing these fear responses and the psychopathy of it. So things that we know is that they have a very stared, glared expression. They have a very blank glare about them. This is what we call fixation, okay? When a person is very fixated, you see these frozen responses. You also see eyes dilate. You will see these frozen, very rapid movements. You'll see fight or flight responses. All of that also is tied into paranoia. And if you think about the guy who shot up all those people in a theater, the guy with the red hair, he thought he was Joker. If you look at his expression, look at the two compared to one another. You see the eyes wide open and no affect in the face, bottom region. So when you look at the top region compared to the bottom region, nothing here changes, but you see the fixation.
That's so interesting. Now that you're saying that, I'm actually thinking about. I haven't thought about that.
Folks, it's what we call the old deer in headlights look. That fear, paranoia, as she says, flight or fight mechanism. All of those things in that expression are absolutely known to law enforcement. I can see when I would see that look on someone's face, I knew to dig much further than just license.
Oops, what did I do?
Fear, flight, or flight responses. But he does.
In court. Let's watch some of this at his first court appearance.
All right, I'm gonna stop here for tonight. I'm exhausted. I've worked a lot of hours in the last week, and I have a huge work week coming up here with my only day off being Wednesday. And by the time I get to Wednesday, it will be the 13th day in a row that I have worked. So I've been trying to work my full-time job and then try to stream as much as I can as well too. So I've just been really tired. I will be back. I'm going to do a part 3 to this on probably Wednesday night. I know that's an off night for me, but I'm doing a double on Tuesday, and I really don't want to stream after doing a double. Then Wednesday is going to be like my day off. So I'm going to try to do, maybe I'll do a double duty on Wednesday or just come in Wednesday night and do something. So I'm tired. I need a break. I really haven't been into the last 2 streams, and I apologize. I've just had a lot going on in my life, and I just haven't been feeling the last 2 streams. I feel like right now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm always really honest. I feel like I'm kind of struggling for content right now, but I appreciate everybody coming in here and hanging out. It gives me some stress relief after the long days, and to come in and see all your faces and see it. Well, not your faces, but seeing all the chatting. It's really good to see that. So, Victorine, take care of yourself. You need to stay safe. Get out of that area with the fire if you need to get out. So, that's the most important thing. Laura, feel better. Hopefully we can get you over here on the panel when you start feeling better again. Miss having you on the panel. Miss having my co-host by my side to come hang out and really put some presentations together. So I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight. I'm so exhausted. I just want to get off here and kind of chill and, reflect. I've had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks. It's just been crazy. Not normal for me. Usually I have everything pretty buttoned up and a lot of distractions right now. So I'll figure something out. We'll do another stream sometime this week, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you all for hanging out on this pre-Memorial Day stream. Everybody have a lovely day off tomorrow. I will be working 10 hours tomorrow and maybe 10. It might be 12, but thank you to all our veterans that have served, past and present. Be well, do your cookouts if you're going to do that, and be safe. I will be back here. You'll see the tile go up. I'll be back probably Wednesday night. I need to get some sleep. I'm cooked. And I promise I'll start getting some better shows together here in the next week, and maybe move on to some other cases that have been put out there. I need a break on Idaho right now. But again, when I don't do the Idaho streams, it's still the same host. It's still the same content and presentations. I would appreciate it. Just come over and check me out. We're all subscribers here. We all like to hang out. So come see me. You guys all have a great night. I'm going to get off here, get some rest, and I'll be back in a couple of days, I promise. Let's read the poll quick before we go. So the poll is, do you think that law enforcement has found any evidence inside BK's car? 67% say yes, 32% say no, 157 votes. If I could get that many likes in this channel, it would be great. We're at 140. Smash that like button on the way out. I would really appreciate it.
Smash,
All right, everybody.
smash.
Be well, take care. Go over and watch all the other true crime channels you watch. Hope to see you guys all back soon. And ladies, have a good night. I'll see you soon. Bye.